Well, here we are, guys, days away from the 2024 presidential election. Now, I believe for the most part, guys, over half of the people that are going to vote have already voted in early voting. Now, early voting here in Texas ended yesterday, and now only election day now is where people can actually vote. That actually brings us to the state of Georgia. Now, in 2020, quote unquote, Joe Biden won Georgia by the slimmest, and I do mean slimmest of margins, folks. It was something like, 11,000 votes or so? Yeah, somewhere around there. Well, flash forward now, guys. Things are looking pretty bad for the Democrats in Georgia. Trump now is stronger than ever. And it looks like Donald Trump is going to take Georgia probably by the same amount he actually took it in 2016. I believe Trump won Georgia in 2016 by something like 5 points. Okay. Democrat failed gubernatorial candidate 2 times, Stacey Abrams, is still screaming voter suppression. Now, you guys may remember, man, that Stacey Abrams barely lost the governorship in 2018 to Brian Kemp. And then the Democrats decided to prop her up again in 2022, and she pretty much got blown out in that election. Georgia actually passed voter integrity reform. Okay. And if you guys actually watch the sports channel, MLB actually had the All-Star game in Georgia that year. And then because of Stacey Abrams, MLB removed the All-Star game from Atlanta. They went to Colorado. Definitely hurt businesses in the Atlanta area because of her lies. And then, guys, we find out when Georgia actually put in voter integrity, there was a record amount of early voting turnout. No voter suppression, man, at all. Black turnout was immense. And guess what? Brian Kemp actually got more black people to vote for him in 2022 than he did in 2018. Yeah, Democrats are having a real problem, guys, getting black people to stay committed to the Democratic Party. And it's even worse now, folks, with Kamala Harris on the ticket. But let's go ahead and listen in to Stacey Abrams here scream about voter suppression. Now look at Brian Kemp puts out, the blatant lies and grift continue from Stacey Abrams. Hope you can make the All-Star game in Atlanta next year. Yeah, I do believe the Major League Baseball All-Star game is going back to Atlanta. But let's go ahead and listen in to Stacey Abrams right here. Let's roll it.
Just breaking records from day one in Georgia. You have been working on improving voter turnout in Georgia for years. What do you think is driving this surge in early voting this time?
Well, while we are excited about who's showing up, we have to understand that turnout does not mean there's not voter suppression activity. A lot of those voters in 2020 were able to vote by mail. One of the reasons we're seeing early lines is because they can no longer use the easier method of voting by mail because of SB 202, because of SB 189, laws that Raffensperger and Brian Kemp supported and pushed forward. People who are disabled, people who have lost their homes are facing harder times casting their ballots, but they refuse to be silenced. And what we are excited about is that here in the state of Georgia, despite the government making it harder to cast your ballot, people are willing to fight to make it happen anyway. So they're showing up, they're standing in lines they shouldn't have to stand in because they believe their voices matter and that this election matters. And we believe they're standing in these lines, especially to support Kamala Harris.
Wait a minute. Did she just say that people are standing in lines and they shouldn't be standing in line? Did she say that? Let me go ahead and make sure I heard that correctly.
We are excited about is that here in the state of Georgia, despite the government making it harder to cast your ballot, people are willing to fight to make it happen anyway. So they're showing up, they're standing in lines they shouldn't have to stand in.
Yeah, she just said people shouldn't have to stand in line to cast their vote. Wow. Folks, these Democrats, man, they definitely want people to vote by mail. And I believe, folks, man, you should be voting in person. If you're actually voting by mail, folks, there's a lot that can actually go wrong. Okay? A lot. Folks, I went and voted early in person day one of early voting here in Texas. I waited in line, cast my ballot, and I left. I would never, ever vote by mail. And guys, if mail-in voting becomes the norm here, there's a whole bunch that can actually go wrong. But there's a record turnout, folks. 3.7 million people in Georgia had already voted. And she's screaming voter suppression. Wow. Look here, guys. This is the 2018 numbers here. Brian Kemp won by something like 1.6 points in 2018 against Stacey Abrams here. Okay. He got 50.22% of the vote, and she got 48.83% of the vote. Now, come 2022, right here, Brian Kemp wins by 8 points. Yeah. A wipeout. A complete wipeout. And this is after the voter integrity reforms when there was record turnout for this election. And Stacey Abrams still screaming voter suppression. She's still doing it right now, folks. Wow. So let's go ahead and look at this, guys. This is the exit polls here from the governor's race in Georgia in 2018. And when Stacey Abrams is actually talking about voter suppression, she's talking about Georgia suppressing black people from voting. Guess what? It didn't happen. It did not happen. Now, over here in 2018, if you want to look at by race, 93% of black people supported Stacey Abrams in 2018. 6% for Brian Kemp. Okay? Now, if you want to go by gender, black men, it was 88% for Stacey Abrams. Brian Kemp got 11%. 97% of black women voted for Stacey Abrams, 2% for Brian Kemp. Okay? Now, flash forward to 2022, and guess what? Stacey Abrams ended up losing black support. More black people voted for Brian Kemp with these quote unquote suppressive laws for voting in Georgia. Yeah. So let's go ahead and look at this right here, guys. So down here by race, it says that Stacey Abrams, remember she had I believe 93%. Yeah, 93% of the black vote in 2018. She got 90% in 2022. Brian Kemp got 6% in 2018. He got 9% in 2022. Yeah. And one of the major problems, man, with the Democrats is that they really are alienating men. They really are. And I wish that they actually showed the percentage of black men supporting Stacey Abrams. I believe here in the 2018 poll, it actually does show you by black men. I do believe I actually saw that here. Let me actually scroll down here and see if I can find it, because I know that I did actually see it. Yeah, right here. So like I said, 11% of black men voted for Brian Kemp in 2018. And over here, I could have sworn that I saw it here too, where it actually breaks it down by like black men also as well. I could be wrong, but I thought I saw where Brian Kemp actually got like, that was enough. I believe Brian Kemp got like 14% of black men that voted for him. I do believe. Of course, Brian Kemp did win the mail vote pretty easily. Okay, like this is a major player in this election here. In 2022, Brian Kemp got 58% of the mail vote. Stacey Abrams got 48%, plus 10 for Kemp. Plus 10. Now, where does that say? I may be missing it, guys. I may be missing it. Okay. Oh, here it is right here. There it is. Black men, I was right. Brian Kemp increased by 3% to 14% from 11%. Yeah, he gained with black men. That's a trend that we're really, really seeing, guys. Stacey Abrams lost 4% of black men. And here we are again, guys. It's only going down. And this woman's talking about voter suppression despite record turnout votes. This woman's something else, man. I'm wondering who they're actually going to get to run against whoever. I don't know if Brian Kemp is actually going to run again in 2026. We have to see what happens. But will the Democrats actually wheel out Stacey Abrams again? It's going to backfire, guys, if they actually do it. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think of this? Black and White Network fans, let us know what you think about all this in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. And we'll catch you next time.